After 4 years together, my fiance told me, "You're not worthy to be my wife, I'll find someone better," and left me. I just laughed now. His new girlfriend married someone else, and he's begging me to come back, but my new husband sees every message. I spent just over 4 years with Ryan, and for the first couple of years, everything was amazing. We moved in together after about 18 months. My parents weren't exactly thrilled about it. But honestly, it's the 21st century, right? We got along perfectly. We shared the same interests, binge-watched the same shows, loved exploring new local restaurants, and could talk for hours about the most random things. He'd surprise me with little things like leaving a cup of coffee on a nightstand for me when I woke up or sending me TikToks that reminded him of me during his workday. It was all just normal couple stuff, but it made me feel like I'd finally found my person. When he proposed on our 3rd anniversary, I was over the moon. It was just a quiet moment at the lake where we had our first date. The ring wasn't huge, but it didn't matter. It was perfect. I posted the obligatory ring picture on Instagram, called my mom crying, and immediately started planning our wedding for the following summer. But then, about 6 months after we got engaged, things started to change. At first, it was subtle, little comments about my appearance that didn't feel like compliments. He'd say things like, "That dress would look better if you toned up a little," or suggest I try a more sophisticated hairstyle. I'd brush it off with a laugh. But these comments kept coming, and soon they weren't just about how I looked. He started saying I should be more ambitious and question things I said in front of his friends, making me feel dumb when I didn't know something he thought was obvious. It even went so far as him making remarks about my family being too simple and that I needed to elevate myself if I wanted to be his wife. I wish I could say I stood up for myself right then and there, but I didn't. Instead, I started believing him. I changed my hair, bought new clothes, worked longer hours, and even took online courses because he said I needed to be more cultured. Looking back, it's embarrassing how much I try to change for him. But when you love someone, sometimes you don't see the toxic behavior creeping in until it's all around you. The breaking point came 3 months before our wedding. We were discussing final details when he made a comment about my dress, even though he hadn't seen it yet. "I'm traditional like that," he said. He mentioned how his mom was worried I'd pick something expected rather than something classy. When I asked what he meant, he exploded. He ranted about how he'd been settling and was starting to realize I wasn't wife material for someone like him. He said his family had concerns about me being able to represent him properly in social circles. Then came the words I'll never forget. He looked me straight in the eyes and told me I wasn't worthy of being his wife, that he thought he could find someone better. I just sat there, stunned, for years together, and that's what he thought of me, that I wasn't worthy? Who even says that to someone they supposedly love? I didn't cry, and I didn't scream. I just laughed. It wasn't intentional, but the absurdity of it all hit me all at once. This man, who I'd been trying so hard to please for months, was telling me I wasn't good enough, and the reality was he wasn't worthy of me. My laugh clearly wasn't the reaction he expected. He looked at me, first confused, then angry, demanding to know what was so funny. I just shook my head and told him he was right. We shouldn't get married, but not because I wasn't worthy, because I deserved better than someone who made me feel like I was never enough. I grabbed my purse, walked out of our apartment, and went straight to my best friend Sophia's place. The tears didn't come until later that night. For years is a long time to invest in someone, and realizing it was over hit me hard. But underneath the sadness, there was this strange feeling of relief, like I'd been carrying around this heavy backpack. And someone had finally taken it off me. Ryan called and texted constantly over the next few days. First angry, calling me dramatic and saying I was overreacting. Then apologetic, saying he didn't mean it and was just stressed about the wedding. Finally, he became condescending again, telling me I was making the biggest mistake of my life and would regret walking away from him. I stayed with Sophia for 2 weeks while I figured out what to do next. Canceling the wedding was a nightmare. PSA: wedding insurance is worth every penny, folks. But my friends were incredible. They helped me contact vendors, return gifts, and break the news to our guests. My parents were supportive too. Though I could tell my mom was worried about what people would think. Small town gossip can be brutal. The hardest part, though, was going back to get my things. I purposely went when I knew he'd be at work, but he showed up halfway through my packing. He alternated between begging me to reconsider and coldly telling me I was making the biggest mistake of my life. He even said, "Good luck finding someone else at your age," as if 29 was ancient. What struck me most was how much more concerned he seemed about appearances than losing me. He kept saying, "Everyone's going to be talking about this, and my family's already told everyone about the wedding." Not once did he say he loved me or would miss me. That's when I knew for sure that I was making the right choice. I found a small apartment across town and threw myself into making my own space. It was the first time I'd ever lived completely alone, and honestly, it felt freeing. I could decorate however I wanted, watch whatever shows I liked without anyone commenting on it, and just exist without feeling like I was being judged. The first month was rough. I'd wake up reaching for him, or think of something I wanted to tell him, only to remember we weren't together anymore. But slowly, I started rediscovering parts of myself that had gotten lost in our relationship. I picked up hobbies I had let go of because Ryan thought they were childish. I reconnected with friends I'd drifted away from because he didn't get along with them. About 6 weeks after the breakup, I heard through mutual friends that Ryan was telling people I'd had some kind of mental breakdown. And that's why I ended things classic Ryan. Rewriting history to protect his ego, I thought about setting the record straight. But then I realized it didn't matter what others thought. The people who mattered knew the truth. What surprised me most, though, was how many messages I received from friends checking in on me and offering support. Several of them told me they'd noticed how Ryan treated me and had been concerned. One of his cousins even reached out to say she was proud of me for walking away. That kind of validation really helped on days when I second-guessed my decision. Through all this, Ryan's texts became less frequent but more manipulative. He'd send things like, "I just saw your favorite movie is playing at the theater," or "Remember that restaurant we always wanted to try? Finally went there today." There was never an apology, just weird breadcrumbs, as if he was trying to remind me of what I was missing. I didn't respond to any of them. It's been 3 months since that night, and I can honestly say I'm doing better than I expected. My apartment feels like home now. I've been excelling at work. Turns out I am ambitious when I'm not being told my job isn't good enough. I've even started dating again. Nothing serious, just casual coffee meetups to remind myself that decent men do exist. I still have moments when I miss what we had. 4 years is a long time, and not all of it was bad, but then I remember his face when he told me I wasn't worthy, and I know I made the right choice. So that's where I am now. Single at 29, starting over, and surprisingly okay with it. I don't know what's next, but for the first time in a long time, I'm excited to find out. First update. Hey Reddit, it's been about 8 months since my original post, and wow, so much has happened that I felt like I needed to update you all. First, thank you to everyone for your supportive comments. I read every single one. Even if I couldn't respond to them all, you guys really helped me through such a tough time. So where do I begin? I guess I'll start with Ryan. About a month after my last post, I heard through our mutual friends that he was seeing someone new. Her name is Emily, and apparently, she's everything I'm not. Comes from money, has some fancy job in the city, commutes about an hour each way, and according to Sophia, who ran into them, dresses like she walked out of a magazine. Initially, hearing this hit me harder than I wanted to admit. Even though I knew Ryan wasn't right for me, there's something uniquely painful about seeing how quickly someone can replace you after 4 years together. I had a bit of a setback when I first heard about them. Spent a weekend feeling sorry for myself, scrolling through old photos, and wondering if maybe I should have tried harder to be what he wanted. But then I remembered why we broke up in the first place, that "you're not worthy" comment showed me exactly what he thought of me. No amount of changing myself should ever have been about trying to make myself worthy of someone else's love. Either they love you for who you are, or they don't deserve you. That's something my therapist helped me realize. Yes, I started therapy after the breakup, and it's been amazing. Anyway, I forced myself to get out of my apartment that Monday and met up with Sophia for dinner. She mentioned that her brother was having a birthday gathering that weekend and practically begged me to come. After some persuasion and maybe a glass or two of wine, I agreed. That's where I met Lucas. He's Sophia's brother's best friend from college, and he was in town for the birthday. We ended up talking most of the night, first in a group, and then somehow found ourselves sitting on the porch swing, having this deep conversation about everything from our favorite podcast to our biggest fears. There was no pressure, no awkward flirting, just this easy connection that I hadn't felt in, well, maybe ever. I wasn't looking to jump into another relationship. Honestly, I was enjoying my independence and still working through the Ryan breakup, but Lucas and I exchanged numbers, and he texted the next day, asking if I want to grab coffee before he headed back home. He lives about 40 minutes away in the next town over. That coffee turned into lunch, which turned into a walk in the park, which turned into dinner. We spent the entire day together, and it felt so natural. He asked thoughtful questions and actually listened to my answers. He talked about his family with such genuine passion, and not once did he comment on my appearance, my job, or what I could potentially become. He seemed genuinely interested in who I am, not who I could be. We started dating long distance. If you can call 40 minutes long distance, haha. He'd come to my town some weekends, and I'd go to his on others. We had our fair share of awkward early relationship moments, like when his Roomba got stuck under the couch during our third date and started making this unholy screeching noise right in the middle of a serious conversation. Or when I tried to cook him dinner and set off his smoke detector 3 times in a row, but those moments just became things we laughed about instead of sources of tension. About 3 months into dating Lucas, I ran into Ryan and Emily at Target. I've been dreading this moment, imagining I'd feel jealous or inadequate. But when I saw them, the weirdest thing happened. I felt nothing, no jealousy, no anger, not even awkwardness, just this calm recognition that part of my life was over. We exchanged brief hellos, and I could tell Ryan was surprised by how comfortable I seemed. Emily was polite, but clearly uncomfortable. The whole interaction lasted maybe 30 seconds, but felt like a huge personal victory. Later that week, I got my first text from Ryan in months. It simply said, "Good to see you. You look well. Would love to catch up sometime as friends." I showed it to Lucas, who just raised his eyebrows and said, "What do you want to do about it?" He wasn't telling me how to respond, wasn't getting jealous, just supporting whatever I decided. I chose not to respond to Ryan. Some doors are better left closed. As for Lucas and me, things progressed naturally, but not too quickly. After 6 months of dating, he suggested I move in with him since I was already spending most of the week at his place. His house is older, but it's full of character, and he'd been renovating it himself, room by room. The idea of leaving my little apartment was scary. It had been my safe haven after the breakup, but it also felt right. Moving in together was an adjustment, as it always is. We had to figure out where all my stuff would go in a house that was already fully furnished. We had different ideas about temperature settings. I'm always cold, he's always hot. He leaves his shoes in the middle of the hallway. I leave cabinets open after taking something out. But instead of these differences causing friction like they did with Ryan, they just seemed to balance us out. Through Sophia, who remains an excellent source of small-town gossip, I heard that Ryan and Emily were getting serious. Apparently, he took her to meet his parents, something he and I didn't do until almost 2 years into our relationship. I was surprised by how little this bothered me. If anything, I felt a little sorry for Emily, wondering if she was experiencing the same subtle put-downs that had eroded my self-esteem. About a month after I moved in with Lucas, the text from Ryan started again. Nothing inappropriate, just things like, "How have you been? Heard you moved. Hope all is well. Remember that band we saw together? They're coming back to town." Each time I either didn't respond or kept my replies brief and neutral. I didn't tell Lucas about every message because they seemed so insignificant, but I didn't hide them either. Then came the day Ryan called. Instead of texting, I was cooking dinner with Lucas when my phone rang, and I saw it was him. I showed Lucas the screen, suddenly feeling anxious. "You can answer if you want," he said, giving me space to make my own decision. I declined the call, but Ryan left a voicemail asking if we could meet up because he had some things he wanted to say in person after discussing it with Lucas. I decided to text Ryan back, saying I was happy in my current relationship, and didn't think meeting up was a good idea. His response came quickly. "I understand. I just wanted to apologize properly for how things ended. I said things I didn't mean. Too little, too late, but at least it was something." I thanked him for the apology and left it at that. Life went on. Lucas and I settled into a routine that never felt routine. We explored new restaurants, took weekend trips, had game nights with friends. We talked about future plans casually, nothing pressured, just possibilities. Then, 6 months after I moved in, Lucas proposed. It wasn't a grand gesture, just a picnic at the lake. Thankfully not the same one where Ryan had proposed. He simply said he couldn't imagine his life without me. The ring was perfect, a vintage sapphire that had belonged to his grandmother. I cried, laughed, and said yes without hesitation. That evening, as we celebrated with champagne on our porch, my phone lit up with a text from Ryan. "Heard about your engagement. Didn't realize things are that serious. Hope you're not rushing into anything you'll regret." I showed Lucas, who just shook his head and said, "Some people never change, do they?" We decided the best response was no response, and I blocked Ryan's number that night. Whatever weird game he was playing, I was done being a part of it. The next day, we shared the news on Facebook, because it's not official until it's Facebook official, right? LOL. The outpouring of love from friends and family was overwhelming, in the best way. Among the comments was one from Sophia that made me laugh. "From not worthy to worthy of the best man I know in less than a year?" That's what I call an upgrade. I should probably have been embarrassed as she referenced my breakup so publicly, but honestly, it felt like a perfect summary of my journey. We set our wedding date for 6 months out. Nothing extravagant, Just a small ceremony with the people who matter most to us. That's next month, and I'm feeling nothing but excitement, no anxiety, no second thoughts, just certainty that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Oh, and the cherry on top of all this? Through the grapevine, small towns, I swear, nothing stays private. I heard that Emily broke up with Ryan last week. Apparently, she reconnected with an old flame and realized she had settled for Ryan. The irony isn't lost on me. So that's my update. From being told I wasn't worthy to finding someone who makes me feel valued every single day. Sometimes, the worst endings lead to the best beginnings, right? I'll update again after the wedding if you guys are interested. Thanks again for all your support on my original post. It truly helped me through one of the toughest periods of my life. Second update. Hey Reddit, it's been a while since my last update. Almost 6 months, in fact, and I'm back with more tea to spill. Life has been an absolute whirlwind. And honestly, I wasn't planning on posting again, but the latest developments are too wild not to share. So where did I leave off? Right, Lucas and I were engaged and had set our wedding date. Wedding planning was so different this time around. With Ryan, everything was about impressing his family and friends. With Lucas, we just focused on what made us happy, a small ceremony with close friends and family. Nothing extravagant, but everything meaningful. No debates about whether the napkins were the right shade of blue or if my dress was sophisticated enough. Ugh, I can't believe I put up with that. About 2 months before our wedding, Sophia dropped the biggest bombshell. Remember Emily, Ryan's perfect girlfriend, the one who was everything I wasn't? Well, apparently, she had been spending time with Sophia's brother James while commuting to the city for work. They started as train buddies, then coffee friends, and eventually, more than friends, she broke things off with Ryan rather suddenly. And he was apparently devastated. I wish I could say I felt bad for him. But karma comes for us all eventually, right? According to Sophia, Ryan was telling everyone who would listen that Emily had blindsided him and that he didn't deserve this kind of treatment. Sound familiar? In the weeks leading up to the wedding, I started getting more texts from Ryan. I had blocked his number after my engagement, but he started messaging me on Instagram. At first, it was just casual stuff, congratulating me on my engagement again, asking how wedding plans are going. I ignored most of them, but occasionally sent brief, polite responses. Then the messages got more personal. I've been thinking about us a lot lately, and I realize now I made a huge mistake. I showed Lucas everything, and he just shook his head. The week before our wedding, the messages increased. Can we talk just for closure? I'd like to apologize in person for how I treated you. And the one that got me. Are you sure you're making the right decision? The audacity of this man to question my decision when he was the one who said I wasn't worthy of being his wife. I stopped responding completely. Our wedding day was perfect in all the imperfect ways that make something real. It rained in the morning, supposedly good luck. My veil got caught on a rose bush during photos, and Lucas's nephew announced he had to pee right in the middle of our vows. But none of that mattered. We were surrounded by people who genuinely loved us for who we are, not who they wanted us to be. And yes, Ryan tried calling me 3 times during the wedding. My maid of honor, Sophia, of course, had my phone and just silenced it. When she told me later, we both laughed. Imagine thinking your ex would answer your call on her wedding day. We honeymooned in a little beachside town about 4 hours away. Just a cute Airbnb with an ocean view. We spent our days exploring local shops, eating too much seafood, and just enjoying being together without any wedding stress. It was the most relaxed I'd felt in years. When we got home, I had 17 missed calls from Ryan, plus a string of Instagram messages that started with "I need to talk to you" and progressed to "please don't ignore me." And finally, I made a huge mistake letting you go. I showed Lucas, who looked concerned rather than jealous. Do you want me to talk to him? He offered. Maybe he'd finally get the message. I hesitated, then nodded. The opportunity came sooner than expected. We were unpacking from our honeymoon when my phone rang. Ryan again. Without missing a beat, Lucas picked it up and answered cheerfully. "Hello." Ruby's phone. There was a long pause. Then Ryan asked if Ruby was available. Lucas, cool as could be, said, "She's a bit busy unpacking from our honeymoon right now. This is her husband." "Lucas, is there something I can help you with?" The silence on the other end was deafening. Finally, Ryan stammered something about just wanting to congratulate us. Lucas thanked him politely, told him we appreciated the thought, but that Ruby had moved on completely and would prefer not to keep in contact. He wasn't rude or aggressive, just calm, direct, and firm. After he hung up, I just stared at him in amazement. No drama, no jealousy, no insecurity, just setting a healthy boundary. That's what a real partner does. Ryan hasn't called since. He sent one last message. I understand now. I'm sorry for everything. You deserve to be happy. It felt like the final page of a chapter I'd been trying to close for a long time. Looking back on everything that's happened in the past year and a half, it's strange to think how devastated I was when Ryan told me I wasn't worthy of being his wife. At the time, it felt like my world was ending. Now I realize it was actually just beginning. I'm not sharing this update to gloat or seek validation. Though your supportive comments on my previous posts helped me through some really tough times, I'm sharing because I want anyone going through something similar to know that sometimes the worst moments of your life can lead you to exactly where you're supposed to be. Lucas and I are talking about buying a house now. Just somewhere to build our life together, somewhere that's miles away from the beginning, with no ghosts of relationships past. So that's where I'm now, happily married at 30, starting a whole new chapter, and finally understanding what it means to be truly valued by someone. I might post one more update down the road, but for now, life is good, better than good. It's exactly as it should be. Thanks for reading, Reddit. Your support has meant more than you know. Hey Reddit, it's been almost a year since my last update, and honestly, I thought I was done posting about this saga. But life has a funny way of giving you closure when you least expect it, and I just had to share this final chapter with you all. Lucas and I have been married for 15 months now. After months of searching, we finally found our first house together about 4 months ago. It's a 3-bedroom ranch-style home built in the 90s, with some interesting wallpaper choices and a kitchen that desperately needs updating. But it has a big backyard for our future dog. We're still debating between a golden retriever or a rescue mutt, but it's ours. Homeownership has been a wild ride so far. The day after we moved in, the dishwasher decided to flood the kitchen floor. 2 weeks later, we discovered a family of squirrels have been living in the attic. And don't even get me started on the bathroom sink that randomly gurgles in the middle of the night. But honestly, working through these little disasters together has been strangely fun. Lucas and I make a great team. He's better at the heavy lifting, and I'm better at organizing the chaos. After getting mostly settled, we decided to host a housewarming party, a casual Saturday afternoon gathering with about 20 friends and family members. I spent days cleaning every corner, arranging snack platters, and making sure our new place looked presentable despite the half-finished painting project in the hallway. The party was going great. Sophia brought her famous buffalo chicken dip. Lucas's brothers helped set up the new patio furniture, and everyone was mingling comfortably between the living room and backyard. I was in the kitchen refilling the ice when Sophia came in with a weird look on her face. She told me that Ryan was outside. Yes, that Ryan, my ex, who wasn't invited to our housewarming party. Apparently, he'd shown up completely unannounced, carrying a bottle of wine and looking slightly disheveled. Sophia had intercepted him in the driveway and was trying to figure out how to tell me without causing a scene. My first reaction was annoyance. This was our day in our new home. The fact that he thought he could just show up after everything? Ugh. But then I took a deep breath and realized I wasn't even nervous about seeing him. That knot in my stomach that used to appear whenever I thought about running into him? Gone. I told Sophia to let him in. It seemed easier than creating drama by turning him away. I went to find Lucas, who was showing his dad the garage storage system he'd installed. When I explained the situation, Lucas just raised his eyebrows and asked what I wanted to do. Again, no jealousy, no territorial nonsense. Just support. Have I mentioned how much I love this man? We decided to greet Ryan together, keeping things civil, but not overly friendly. When we walked outside, he was standing awkwardly by the snack table, looking out of place. He'd clearly had a few drinks before arriving. Not sloppy drunk, but definitely loosened up. He handed me the wine bottle, which ironically was the exact same kind he used to criticize me for buying, because it wasn't sophisticated enough. The conversation started painfully polite. He complimented the house, asked standard questions about the neighborhood, mentioned the weather, all while giving Lucas these weird side glances. I could feel the tension building, but kept things moving along, introducing him to people as an old friend, which felt generous. Seemed simpler than ex-fiance who told me I wasn't worthy of him. Things took a turn when one of Lucas's cousins innocently mentioned how happy Lucas and I seemed, and how perfect we were for each other. Ryan mumbled something under his breath that sounded suspiciously like, "She wouldn't be here without me." When I asked him to repeat himself, the floodgates opened. He launched into this bizarre speech about how he had prepared me for Lucas, how his criticisms had motivated me to improve myself, and how I should actually be grateful for a breakup because it led me to where I am now. I was too stunned to respond immediately. But Lucas calmly stepped in. No raised voice, no macho confrontation. He simply said that while he was certainly grateful that I was in his life, my personal growth had nothing to do with being torn down by someone else. He added that we prefer to focus on celebrating our new home today, and maybe this wasn't the best time for this conversation. Ryan didn't take the hint. Instead, he turned to me and asked if I ever thought about what could have been if he hadn't let me go, his words, not mine. As if he didn't tell me I wasn't worthy, the way he said it, like he was doing me a favor by considering taking me back, instantly transported me back to that night when he'd broken my heart and my spirit in one fell swoop. I told him, as gently but firmly as I could, that I never think about what could have been because I'm too busy being grateful for what is, that breaking up was the best thing that could have happened to both of us. And that worthy isn't something someone else gets to decide for you. It's something you realize about yourself. The look on his face was complicated, surprise, confusion, maybe even a flash of regret for a moment. I thought he might actually understand what I was saying, but then he looked around at our friends, our home, our life, and something shifted in his expression. He muttered something about how I'd changed, like that was a bad thing, and that I didn't used to be this cold. Before I could respond, Sophia stepped in with perfect timing. She mentioned that she'd run into Emily and James last weekend at the farmer's market. Apparently, they're expecting their first baby in the summer and just bought a house across town. She showed us all a picture on her phone, and they looked genuinely happy. Watching Ryan's face as he processed this information was like watching someone try to solve a difficult math problem. He seemed genuinely shocked that Emily had moved on so completely. When Sophia casually mentioned that Emily had told her the relationship with Ryan had been a learning experience. Ouch. I thought he might actually explode. Instead, he drained his drink, mumbled something about having another commitment, and headed for the door. Lucas, ever the gentleman, walked him out while I stayed behind with Sophia. Both of us trying not to make eye contact until he was gone, so we wouldn't burst into inappropriate laughter. When Lucas came back, he just shook his head and said Ryan had asked him, man to man, is she always this stubborn? Lucas told him he preferred the term self-assured and suggested Ryan take an Uber home since he'd clearly been drinking. The party continued without further drama, though I noticed a few curious glances and definitely overheard some whispered conversations. Small town life. This will probably be local gossip for at least 3 weeks. LOL. The next morning, I woke up to a text from Ryan. I'm sorry for yesterday. I didn't mean to cause a scene. I hope you're happy. Simple, a bit ambiguous, but probably the closest thing to closure I'll ever get from him. I didn't respond. Some conversations are better left ended. So that's it, Reddit. Life isn't perfect, of course. Our roof needs replacing sooner than we thought. We argue about whose turn it is to take out the trash, and I still sometimes struggle with the echoes of insecurity that Ryan planted. But through it all, I've learned that worthiness isn't something you earn through changing yourself to please someone else. It's something you recognize when you're finally with people who never questioned it in the first place. Your support, advice, and kind words helped me through some of my darkest days. I won't be posting any more updates, this time for real. But I'll be here in the comments if anyone has questions.